Hi, I'm Radical Coder. This is Umbreon. And real quick, before we dive in, if you want to make sure this little dude stays fed and warm, drop a like, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments what I got right, what I got wrong, or what you want to argue about. Let's go.
What's up, Ryan? You come over here to ruffle my feathers.
My radical
You know it.
of course.
Yeah, well,
let me finish before interruptions. A man is strong. You know, he protects those that he loves. He protects what it's under his responsibility and authority, right? But he doesn't sacrifice those for people not underneath it. So again, remember I told you, like, no, I would defend my woman, not all women. I have a responsibility to my woman, not to all women. Right. And then lastly, a man shows proper respect to authority. You may not like the authority, or you may not like the president that's in the office. I wasn't a fan of a few presidents in my lifetime, but I respected the position that they held. I respected the office that they held, not the man in the office. I respected the hierarchy. So I know a lot of people like Ryan can't stand Trump. He's the worst person in the world. And I'll tell you right now, I don't like him as a person. I really don't think he's a good person. And I do like some of his policies. I don't like all of them, but I would respect him regardless because of the office that he holds. Because I respect the design and the structure of our nation's leadership, right? We pride ourselves about being, you know, the best country in the world because we have freedoms and we have rights, and that we have a lot of things that other countries don't have. Well, that's only because of the structure and the hierarchy that we have built here, right?
I agree with that. I don't think Donald Trump respects that structure. I don't think Donald Trump respects those systems.
Well, it doesn't really matter if he does or not.
Of course it does.
He's the
one.
No, not in this conversation. It doesn't.
If he, it's regardless. Let's say you were the president, right? And let's say you didn't respect it. Let's say you didn't respect the hierarchy. Well, that's irrelevant to me because I still like the structure and the freedom that this nation is built off of. So I still honor and respect the office that you hold. I don't have to like or respect you as the individual. Does that make sense?
It does. But when I say he doesn't respect the office, I don't mean like in his heart of hearts. What I mean is in his actions. His actions don't respect the hierarchy, the systems that he is living, the systems that he's been elected into. I don't think he has respect for those, and he doesn't demonstrate respect for those in the way that he navigates that power structure.
And I think that's, you know, perspective, right? Some people may say other ways. Like nobody shares the same perspective.
The criticism isn't invalid. So the entire premise behind this conversation is how men should act based on how men are. This isn't about the president. This isn't about Donald Trump or your opinions on progressive culture. This is more of trying to talk about simple prescriptions for how men, obviously by and large, could or should act and behave. Okay, the same way Glenn Lawrence, we were saying this earlier, he runs this whole show here. Okay, if we don't afford him and show him respect, regardless of whether or not we value his opinions or the way he acts upon that authority, it's irrelevant because the entire structure is designed one way. That's what we're actually talking about. Again, I voted for Hillary originally. The premise behind what I agree with him on is I didn't respect what Trump was. I didn't respect the president. I didn't respect the actual authority of that role itself. I talked nothing but crap about him. I hated everything about him as a person, so much so that I devalued the authority of what the president was inherently. So in order for men to continue being men, whether or not you're on your side of the fence or my side of the fence isn't kind of the point. The point is to try to figure out how we can both be men.
And lastly, I'm just going to say the last point here. The last point is a man shows proper honor to women. That means men are not supposed to be misogynists. And I wanted to bring this up because this whole topic is that I am not a misogynist. I just love bitches, right? And it says in the Bible, right, in 1 Peter 3:7, you husbands, in the same way, live with your wives in an understanding way as someone of the weaker vessel, since she is a woman, and show her honor as a fellow heir. So right there, they're both equal in that sense. They're fellow heirs, right? So show her honor as a fellow heir of Christ, of the fellow heir of the grace of life, so that your prayers will not be hindered. That's important, guys. This is extremely important.
I think from a secular point of view, I would say a similar thing, that we could show respect for because women are human beings, right? They're also humans, just like I think a lot of the stuff you described, like about respect, and a lot of the prescriptions you made when I was listening, they feel like good advice, like in general. Like I feel like when you remove the gendered language from them, they can be just as like positive sentiments.
Sure.
Like without the gender divide. And I think that maybe it's worth looking at it from both lenses, which is kind of
because like I mean, I tell people all the time the Bible is good for best practices, and none of these scriptures none of these scriptures are specifically gendered, right? I take these scriptures and said these are the characteristics of a man that's trying to live after God's own heart, like trying to be like as close to a mirror of God as possible.
And Glenn can vouch earlier. I was saying that it was true prescriptively for each side that things can be true, but it's only true in one direction if you're either religious or secular. So like
I'm getting yelled at by Ghost right now. Yes, Ghost, right? Sex, not gender.
I even understand what you're saying, Coder, because like the funny thing is like I will sit here and argue you all day, but the reality is I actually understand where you're coming from very well, because most of my time was spent on that side of the fence. So I understand that like humanity in and of itself is important to value. The problem is I think that we're separating too much of genders and not realizing what men actually are at our core. Even if you just take the women out of it, let's just take the women and what we think that prescriptively is correct for women out of the equation entirely. It doesn't change what we're discussing here, because it's about how men can fix the problem. We're not saying that women need to be subjugated to this or that to fix the issue. The issue that we're trying to solve is how men aren't behaving like men. So you can't take the gender out of that. It's inherently in the premise.
Yeah. So real quick, Coder, do you think I'm a misogynist?
I think I said this in the last show I came on. I consider myself like an anti-sexist sexist. You know, like when you say I'm not a misogynist, I love bitches or whatever. Like I think there is some misogyny packed into that, but I also say things like that sometimes. Well, I think I'm also guilty of this, and I don't think it's like it's not evil. Like having some degree of sexism, some degree of misogyny. I don't think it's like an evil like character like horrible thing about people.
Level of respect. Like I'm joking tongue in cheek when I say I can't be a misogynist. I love bitches, right? You know, because hatred of women, that means like you hate them. You don't even want to be around them. You can't stand them. No, I love women, right?
Well, I think that what a lot of people who describe like a lot of people on the feminist side of things, when they describe misogyny, and like they're not saying that like you don't want to be around women ever, or you can't stand women, you hate them like in an active malicious way. I think what they're often describing is that you or that and I mean like a general you, I'm not specifically talking about you here, is that like people kind of devalue their humanity in a way. Like they place them on a lower pedestal of like a higher. They have this hierarchy of like where men are supposed to be and women are below that position, and their humanity is less valuable in a different way than. Again, it's not like the perspective from a lot of people who might be called misogynists is that, well, the women are actually, we're actually placing them on a pedestal. We're actually placing them at a higher place of value. We actually value women more. But what they're actually doing is they are kind of objectifying them in a way that doesn't actually connect with the humanity of the person that they're allegedly valuing.
I have a huge question because it's along the same lines of that. So do you realize that the same system that implements that logic of thinking is the same system that says women and children first while men don't have an option there? Like, do you understand that those two systems are exactly the same? It's not the feminist side that does that. It's the over masculine side that's like, no, men can stay back, women and children are safe.
Yeah, I agree. That's a sentiment that exists.
So would
I
that
don't
not be elevating them on a pedestal above men in that? So I'm saying
Well,
that
that's
like
yeah, that's what
all
I'm
the
saying. Yeah,
time,
like yeah.
but all the time things aren't exactly equal, and that's kind of the prism that I think is really lost on the left in a lot of ways. And this isn't really to attack either side. The left wants to see it as we have to constantly try to keep them here if we can, but the only way that that's possible if women are here, because at the end of the day, women are always going to be at a disadvantage or an advantage to men the same way children are, in that like sometimes men are going to get the benefit, but sometimes women and children are the exclusive beneficiary. And I know that that sounds selfish, but inherently that's the way that it's designed because we're the ones that have to do it. And if we don't do it, then we're not actually being true to who we are. It's not whether or not a woman can do it or whether a woman couldn't do it. It's about the fact that that's actually what we're designed and what we're wired to do, regardless. Like, it's the same way you do. I'll actually say that it's a very masculine thing to want to defend femininity in the same sense that you want to do it. Because in your mind, you're being a man. It's inherently what you think is your masculine trait. But what I'm saying is it's being misguided based on what your perception of morality is. And that's why I think that Christianity being pushed aside, we can separate and compartmentalize the two, but that's why that one side's always going to have a little bit more of a moral grounding, even if you don't believe in the God, because the ethics never change, not truthfully.
I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there. I don't know how it really relates directly to what I was saying, but I understand. I think it's an interesting like train of thought.
Elevating
Great,
and
what are your
changing
thoughts?
between married men and women are, yeah, that it happens. It happens because
I don't have any. Oh,
do.
you mean
True.
THOUGHT, not THOT?
No, I know you don't have any THOTS.
I don't have any thoughts.
That's funny.
You're
you
thoughtless.
know, yeah, I am. I truly am. I mean, I don't know. I said this earlier. Look, I dislike it when people make generalized statements. I dislike it when people say something like Glenn Lawrence is a misogynist because he says the things that he believes are true about love and relationships and women and the way that they move in society. I don't believe making observations, making comments, and even espousing rhetoric doesn't necessarily make you a misogynist, right?
No, but I do
not a misogynist either. But if someone's going to say, "Hey, Glenn Lawrence is a misogynist," I'd really like to see an example of Glenn Lawrence hating on a woman, on a specific woman or group of women, and actually being hateful towards it. I mean, it's a very specific word with a very specific meaning, and I think it's overused. And that's something that
I don't think so.
you don't think it's overused.
No,
this is why I wanted to get to him. I didn't give him the opportunity to really
I'm letting
answer
him
the
finish.
question.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I did ask him like, do you think I'm a misogynist? Because he's a sexist of sexist's.
Anti-sexist, sexist.
Yes. Do you think that I have characteristics of misogyny, or do I have displayed misogyny?
I don't have like in my mind like a lot of specific example. I mean, I've only been here a few times.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't like run around being like Glenn Lawrence is a misogynist, but I think that like the average man is has a lot of like misogynistic tendencies for sure.
Okay. Now I want to make sure that we're working with the same understanding of misogyny. The definition is hatred or contempt for women, right?
What is
All
that?
women, not specific women.
Not specific women, but it's all
All
women.
women. Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to also define contempt, because I think that just the hatred is kind of a blanket statement that the left doesn't agree with, and I think that that's the important part, is the content nature, because I think that some of the things that they think are content, and that's why they define certain characteristics as misogynistic when they're not.
Well, I think a different way to think about the word hatred in this context might be to like it's not that you hate like people who are women. I think it's that you like there's a hatred for women not being what people expect them to be. There's a hatred of sure. Well, I think it's a good word for what I'm describing, because the hatred is about like what women are in reality, and it's a frustration with that reality, but the hatred is because it's like, well, they're not living up to what I think women are supposed to be, right? Women are supposed to do.
Right.
Well, this is the issue
yes.
for me, is you lose in debate because you just took a definition that is hatred or contempt of women, which is an actual definition, but then you wanted to apply your own self-definition to what hatred means. I would think that you would actually have to look up the clinical definition of hatred if you were going to apply the same logic and make it work. Right?
Yeah, I don't care about that. I mean, I'm just trying to communicate like amongst men here. Like, we're just having a conversation. I think that people can understand like the sentiment that I'm getting across when they say that like people hate. Hang on, I'm almost done. When people say that they like, when I'm saying that people like men hate the man, like what women are in reality because they're not what they expect them to be. Oh shit. Yeah, because they're not what they expect them to be. I think people understand like what I'm getting at when I say that. You know, I don't think it's that complicated. I don't think I need like a dictionary to explain.
Hold on, I got
it right here. I just want to make sure that we have a working term before we continue. All right, I got a definition here. I wanted to see if we can all agree to this. All right, the hatred of, contempt for, or prejudice against women. Right. Can we say that's a working term?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think I'm a misogynist based off of that definition alone. Period. I don't have prejudice towards women. Now, I do think women may be suited in different roles at times, right? Because of their nature. I don't think that makes it hate a misogynist. I think that, I don't have a contempt for all women. I may have contempt for some women, right? But that's just like I have contempt for some men, right? But that doesn't make it a misogyny. And so I want to be clear that, like, misogyny can show up in multiple ways, right? In form of disrespect, hostility, right, towards women, objectifying them, or reducing their value, like in meaning in life, not their sexual market. Yeah, not talking about the sexual market value, but I'm talking about their humanity. Their life is valuable. All life is valuable, right? Even Destiny's life is valuable, right?
Yeah, less so, of course. I'm just kidding.
Definitely less so.
Not wrong.
No, I am wrong. That's just a joke. It's just a joke.
It is a joke. It's a joke, right? But believing women are more morally inferior, that's not misogyny. That's not even like, that's stupid, or inferior. Believing that you could exclude women from opportunities and decision-making roles, that would be a display of misogyny.
Yeah, like prejudice.
I would say prejudice, but
even part of the definition you gave us, right?
Yeah, that's why I was questioning it. Yeah.
But even that is not necessarily make you a misogynist either.
So I would say that your working definition of prejudice is probably wrong, Coder, because I was thinking the same thing until I thought about it. Because you have to actually, if you've experienced that women are X thing, or if you have actual evidence based on your own personal experience, that's not what prejudice is. Prejudice would mean that you don't have any experience with it. Yeah, actually, that's what prejudice is. Because you have a bias against something or for something without actual evidence, and you can do your own Google search if you need. That's actually prejudice.
Can
I challenge that a little bit, real quick?
We do like white nationalists say like, white is right, like their race is superior, without no evidence to support it. Right? They think that they're better than all races because they're white, right? Well, there's no evidence to support that prejudice. They just have it.
So I would say that like you can have evidence. Like if let's say you're a white person who meets like a few black people who treat you badly or whatever, and then you decide that black people in general are bad. I think you're prejudiced against the rest of black people because of your experience with those few black people, right? So you are expressing prejudice still. And it's not, you might have some evidence, but that evidence it's not evidence that all of those other people that you are now prejudiced against like you're prejudiced against the characteristic rather than the behavior that was exhibited against you, right? And but you're mapping it onto that.
Are you prejudiced against people who are
prejudice is alleviated based on evidence. So if I was to have a bad experience with black people, it would not be inherently a prejudice of me to do that. By your standards, it would be prejudice. But
not inherently, it would be if you then try to apply that.
No,
to all
but by
black
my but by my standards, if I did it again and again and again, it wouldn't be prejudice. By my standards, by your standards, it would be because it's not your experience.
Justify it. I think he's talking about the prejudice is there. You're still treating them this way, and you're justifying it, even though there's no evidence that would
that's not what prejudice is. Prejudice is based on non-experience. So if you have experience with a certain, that's the problem. Is I think that we try to expound racism and prejudice to be so much worse than it actually is. Prejudice itself is it a bias that is in you based on someone else that you have no experience with. Okay, it doesn't matter if they're black, white, Hispanic. None of that actually matters. It's based on your own personal experience. So it cannot be prejudice to him, but it'd be prejudice to you. That's what I'm saying. It's all based on your own perception. I know that you want to say it's different or that he's prejudiced, but he's not.
Well, I'm saying that the prejudice is emerging with regard, like you're prejudiced against people you don't have experience with because of people you do have experience
lens. With. That's not what prejudice is.
Okay, so here's the
bias
definition
based on a racial lens. That's not the definition. Go look up the definition.
I got the definition right here. A perceived opinion or judgment about someone or something that is not based on reason, actual experience, or factual evidence.
Exactly.
Yeah, the one I got is based on insufficient or biased information.
No, but it's not an inherently exactly. You want to say bias, but that's not what it is. A biased opinion based on race is not prejudice. That's what a lot of leftists want to describe it as, but it's not. And semantics are important. The reason why is when you use language is coded these days. Okay, you want to sit here and call swastika people. That's a ridiculous statement. The same way that I'm not going to sit here and call all people who think from a socialist lens Marxist or communist. I'm not going to do that the same way because I think it's a ridiculous extrapolation of what they believe.
Can you say they're dumb though?
Yeah, absolutely. I can say a lot of things, but I can also say a lot of conservatives are dumb too. The whole the joke that we make. I disagree. The joke that we make about chaining women to a stove. I agree with the sentiment, but the joke itself is inherently stupid.
Because
the sentiment is also quite.
No, the thing is bad. It's dumb because you know what? The toilets need to get cleaned too. And she's in the kitchen the whole damn time. Who's going to clean the toilets? No, I'm kidding.
No, but again, when you have to define these terms and you want to add your own definitions, this is why I think the water gets muddied because there's agreed on definitions, whether or not it was made by someone who is a leftist or right wing. It doesn't really matter. If we can't actually agree on what something means, then that's going to actually be detrimental to all conversations. So no, there is no inherent prejudice in someone when I disagree with something based on an experience that I've had with them because of their color. You might not like that, but that is true. They're not prejudiced.
Now that we understand, I think we got the definition of prejudice, and
I don't think I agree with the characterization here, but I mean we can move forward.
Okay, well, I'm reading the definition again, just so it's not Glenn's version. I didn't write this. Okay, it says the perceived opinion or judgment about someone or something that is not based on reason, actual experience, or factual evidence. So there's three components there, right?
Well, the big problem with this would be that he's never met all black people.
Exactly.
But
absolutely.
You can say that generalization, but there's nowhere in that working definition where it says generalization would counter that. That's what I'm saying.
I think the reasonable part.
Hold on.
You can be biased. That's an inherent bias based on race or based on ethnicity.
It's unreasonable to extrapolate to all black people based on your experience with
You might even be able to call it racist. But you wouldn't be able to call it prejudice.
I would say racism is a kind of prejudice.
Give me a second here. Is AI, when AI markets very specific products to very specific people, when machine learning literally decides which products you buy based on the clicks in your history and the products that it decides to show you, is that not prejudice?
So you're telling me my AI is prejudiced because it shows me
it shows it has no idea. It's prejudging what you want, right? It doesn't know you.
I don't think that it's sentient. I think that it's non-sentient.
So you're saying that my AI thinks I'm black?
I bet it does. It probably has you written down as a black man.
Real quick, let me read this real quick from Wicked Wally.
A black man wants to be white because you keep buying the wrong hair product.
At least I got hair. Wicked Wally comes in with $5. He goes, "We live in modern times where wireless technology and shot collars. Chains are really backward thinking when you have the virtual chains." God, Rocky. Oh, that's funny.
Alexandria says my AI definitely thinks I'm a black man. That's just
okay. So Ryan, for the sake of argument, can we agree with the definition of prejudices on that? The way I read it out, that there's not.
Yeah, I think I'm fine with the I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that definition. I think that when I'm actually using the definition, I think is where we're having a disagreement.
Okay. So I want to say, like, so what misogyny is not. It's not criticizing specific ideas, behaviors, or ideologies that are held by some women, right? Or modern feminism, or like statements like believing all women, right? That just because I criticize feminism, wokeism or whatever, and even like the statement to believe all women, just because I criticize that or don't agree with that, that doesn't make me a misogynist.
Sure, not inherently. Can I make one point about the believe all women hashtag? The original phrase was always believe women. The believe all women was a straw man that was like thrown out. Like, and the implication was that like no women are ever lying, which is obviously not true. Obviously, sometimes there are false allegations, but the phrase believe women was primarily about believing victims who are expressing their stories, and it doesn't mean convict men. It means hear them out. Like that was the original sentiment.
How do I know they're victims?
Women lie a lot.
So I would have to believe women. So that means it's still like, it's not trust but verify. So
I think that is actually what the sentiment was.
No, they should have just said trust but verify. That would have been.
You can criticize the framing, but I think it's accurate, or I think it's important to note that the phrase was specifically believe women. The believe all women was specifically a straw man version that manifested after the fact.
I agree with you. I remember that. I remember that. But even if they drop the word all, and you just have believe women, you still have the same sentiment that believe women. What women? Well, all women.
About 25% of women seem to have had some sort of sexual assault in their life. So
25 out of 100. All women. So all and 25% of the same thing.
Well, I don't think do more than 25% of women claim to have been assaulted.
Coder. Isn't the statistic higher for men than women? Are you sure?
Yeah, for sexual assault, it's not.
Sexual assault,
it's like 1 in 10 for men or something.
I couldn't hear you, Glenn. What?
It's like so you got to remember it's going off self-reporting. So most men do not report sexual assaults.
Most women don't report their sexual assaults either.
10 times. Most women do in comparison.
Women do not
report their sexual assaults. It's
women are more
underreported crime.
Women are more likely to falsely report.
Well, women are more likely to report it than men are, because men, even if it.
Sure.
Men would rather die not knowing, not anybody knowing that they were, taken advantage of sexually like that.
Yep.
A lot of women feel that way too.
Yes, but I'm saying the likelihood between the two sexes, who's more likely going to report it? It would be women. Not
certainly now, I would say so.
So just because I choose not to believe women, and I equally don't believe men, that doesn't make me misogynist.
Exactly.
All right.
Personally, I don't care that much about the label misogynist. I think there are things that, like, calling a person misogynist, it's like calling a person a racist. Like in
it's just so fun, so easy for you.
Well, no. What I'm saying, hang on, let me land the plane. What I'm saying is, I at least personally, I don't use those words like to as often unless I'm describing like a very specific, like a Nick Fuentes type. I'll be like, oh, that's a racist person. But like usually I'm describing characteristics. What is happening with my camera right now? That's tripping out.
Your camera's on crack.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'll try to fix it. But yeah, I think it's normally about actions. It's normally about attitudes that make more sense to characterize as misogynistic or racist, or it's easier to classify things in that way rather than just asserting that a person is bad because of those things. Like I think that's maybe the issue that we run into.
So by understanding that, like, just because, like, okay, like me, I demand accountability from all people, right? Regardless of your sex. I want all people to be accountable for their behaviors. If I call out double standards, that doesn't make me misogynistic. If I, advocate for masculine values, that does not make me misogynistic.
I think what I would say to any of those things, we'd have to like dig into each one and like describe like what specifically we're talking about. Like, sure, at face value, like yes, at like a very abstract level, those things aren't inherently misogynistic. But like when we like break them down to how they're actually manifesting in the real world, they very well could be.
We could make this conversation so much easier. What's misogynistic about saying that women shouldn't vote?
You are hating their autonomy. You're prejudicing against their autonomy.
Hating autonomy? How is that hating autonomy? Can you demonstrate that for me?
So women are people who want to express their will in the systems that they live in, and if you think that they are not, they shouldn't be allowed to have that right because you think women are not, for whatever reason, you underestimate their political savviness or you overestimate their political savviness, whatever. Like, you are hating their humanity in that sense. That's the way I see it.
So you're saying that these women that you're describing, they're not appealing to authority at all? That's not what they're doing? They're not appealing to authority for any of these things that you're asking for?
I'm not talking about an appeal to authority at all.
I'm just talking about, in order to express these things, do you appeal to an authority to express them is the point? Because you're saying autonomy.
Well, you have to have,
so their autonomous nature gives them the permission to do these things, or are they asking for authority to do these things?
So the right of humans to vote, which is, I think, is something we have in this country.
So we've always had the right to vote, is what you're saying?
Of course not. Most people didn't have the right to vote. Black people didn't have the right to vote.
So then where are you getting this human right? This is not an inherent human right. So can we go back?
It's not inherent, which is why we have to maintain.
The goalpost and answer the question.
I'm not shifting anything. I'm saying that I want to live in the country. Hang on, I want to live in the country where women have that right to vote because I think that women deserve that right to vote.
You're saying the autonomy grants them the right to vote.
He didn't rage quit, you guys. He's working on this camera.
That's fine. That's fine. But
I think what we're doing right now is important.
You quit, you lose.
I think what we're doing right now is important, especially defining terms. Okay.
Yeah.
And I want to read the definition of autonomy for people to get. Okay. Because I think people don't understand what that definition really means. All right.
Man, you jinxed me. Look at this shit. You see that?
You jacked off too much, didn't you? I told you.
Wrong hand, bro.
You gotta be careful, man.
Giving yourself a stranger.
Less in the wrist. Okay, guys, use more forearm next time. Okay. So here we go. Autonomy is defined as the right or condition of self-government, self-rule, the ability to make one's own decision without external control or influence. Okay, right? Mm-hmm. But what comes with autonomy, and I like where what Ryan was saying. He's saying that, okay, he wants women to be able to express, have autonomy, right? But here's the problem. Autonomy comes with consequence and responsibility. They cannot demand it or want autonomy, but also avoid accountability and responsibility. You can't have it both ways, right?
Well, I think, what different responsibility are you saying that women, like what responsibility are you saying women don't have?
Okay, so I'm gonna go to the easy one. I'm gonna go to the easiest one I could use as an example, right? But we could. There's plenty of them, but we could go to the easy one, right? Abortion is the avoiding of responsibility and avoiding of accountability, right?
But I disagree. I think abortion is taking responsibility in a different way, right? It's taking responsibility in a way that you might not prefer.
Let me explain why. Okay, because when we didn't have the means, when we didn't have the means, right? If a woman got pregnant, she was just pregnant. Like, it's just you got to push the baby out.
Like natural ways to, like natural kinds of abortion.
Sure, but I'm saying that if you get rid of all the possibilities of how to get rid of a baby, right? And you just say you had sex, the consequences of having sex is getting pregnant and having children, right? That's the consequence of it. Whether you look at it as a positive or negative, it's the effect, right? It's the cause and the effect. Fucking leads to babies, right?
Getting pregnant.
So,
Yes, I agree. It can. Yeah, sure.
yeah. So the consequence of fucking is pregnancy for women.
Or being assaulted. Sure, it can be. Yeah.
It's still fucking. Whether it was,
I don't think it's. I think it's weird to call that like fucking or call it. I wouldn't call sexual assault like sex.
Okay, it's sex in general. Just sex in general, whether it's wanted or unwanted, can lead to baby. Yeah. Right.
Sure. Sexual
conduct,
voluntary or involuntary.
Ryan already lost one debate.
So what I'm getting at.
I don't agree with that either. But
I know you don't. That's why you don't understand debate.
Having autonomy is to the right to or condition to self-govern, self-rule, make your decisions for yourself, do the things that you want to do, right? That you want to do these things. That's your choice. Like voting, right? But if so, like having sex, like choosing to have sex with somebody, that is, operating with your autonomy, right?
Yeah, and you're taking the chance of getting pregnant.
Getting pregnant is the consequence of having sex, and you're saying I want to be able to get rid of this other part here. Then that they can't have autonomy without responsibility and accountability. And
can I engage with that point?
But you see what I'm saying, like.
Yeah, but I think you're using the word responsibility there in a kind of sneaky way. Like you're saying that the responsibility they have is necessary. Like you're asserting that responsibility is to carry that baby to term. But I'm saying that it is a responsibility to make a choice about whether or not you want to carry that child. Well, I would say it's a responsibility if you decide. Hang on. If you decide that you don't want to carry that baby to term, it is a responsibility that you have to take on to go seek out an abortion, which is a extremely difficult choice, and it's a responsibility that women have to make that choice, and they are refused that responsibility in states that don't allow them to do so. Right.
The only question I have is is all human life valuable?
Sure.
Do we not have a responsibility to protect human life?
Sure, generally, yeah. I mean, not in all cases.
He doesn't believe in this. That's the problem. You can go down this path.
Do you believe in the death penalty? Do you think we should kill people?
I'm against death penalty generally.
Oh, but so death penalty tends to happen to somebody that's convicted of a crime that did something wrong, right?
Yep.
So then if you're against the death penalty, then you should be against abortion because, well, one, that's an innocent life that didn't even do anything wrong, and that life would be snuffed out, and that would be a crime.
He thinks that it's forcing the mother to stay pregnant. He believes that by definition
okay, I'm just using this example, right? Abortion. And and sex, right? As I say, well, abortions are a way to a woman avoids the consequence of sex, right? Which is being pregnant.
I think abortion can be a consequence of having sex.
She took the autonomy. She used her autonomy to choose to have sex with this person, and the risk was getting pregnant. Now she's trying to avoid the risk that she. From what the action that she took by having
dying as well, because there is a high maternal mortality rate in the United States.
Okay, but there's a difference between what you're saying. You're saying, okay,
it's
always a consequence of sex, but it's only possible that it can happen. So it's possible that it's not always a consequence. No, stop. Listening for a second, the actual words that I'm using. It's possible that it could happen as a result of sex, making it a consequence. But when it does happen, it's always a consequence of the sex. That's the point. That's what I'm saying. So it is a consequence, so that's where you're missing the distinction.
Wait, I agree with that. I agree that the pregnancy is a possible consequence of having sex. I agree with that.
From the beginning, I've said that. There we go. If somebody wants to,
I feel like you had to pull teeth to get that out of me, but I already said it.
You didn't agree.
I literally did. I literally agreed with that earlier. It's explicit. And in the beginning of our debate previously, that's exactly what I said.
Could you not agree, Ryan? Then having an abortion, if a woman engaged in sexual activity willingly with this individual, did not use protection or contraceptions, right, and gets pregnant, having an abortion is a way to avoid the consequence of the action of sex that they consensually engaged in.
So what I'm discerning right here is what I just agreed to is that the consequence is the potential of getting pregnant. What I'm not agreeing to is that they are accepting the consequence of staying pregnant for 9 months, that's the distinction I'm making.
Okay, but regardless of that, like I'm pointing out, like, avoiding the consequence, making sure that they don't stay pregnant for 9 months would be trying to avoid the action, the accountability that they have to face that they're a parent.
Accountability to who?
The child that is growing in their womb.
Why are they accountable to that child?
You agree that all life was valuable and you don't believe in the death penalty, but this woman is going to sentence this child to death for no crime. So that would be an injustice.
Well, I don't think the woman is obligated to yield her organs to that child.
That's the responsibility part. That's
according to you. That's you are asserting that's her responsibility, but I don't agree with that.
No, that's biological responsibility. You have to.
That doesn't make any sense.
We're
talking about morality, not biology.
There's a reason. Okay.
Okay. I'm not even talking about morality.
You have no grounding in morality.
I'm just pointing out that
I have better morality than you.
No, you don't.
All right. Okay. Let me switch it around. I won't even use women then. Okay. I use men. A guy, right? A father, let's say a husband or whatever. Chooses, he just decides, he's going to take all his money and leave or kick out his wife and his kids. He's acting his autonomy. He got married on his own and got her pregnant, on his own, right? And says like, fuck it, I don't want to have to pay their bills. I'm out. That would be him avoiding responsibility and accountability, right?
Yeah. So what we're talking about is this common conversation about like fiscal abortions and financial abortion is like what a lot of like
I'm using
I know. I understand. I'm just saying like what I usually when I engage with this topic, what I'm going to say the same thing here is basically like I am totally in favor of a strong welfare state that can take care of the woman and that child without any action from that man. If he wants to leave, if he wants to abandon that, he wants to sign away his rights to see that child, I am totally on board with that as long as there are systems in place to make sure that child is taken care of. I don't give a shit if he doesn't want to be part of that child's life. I don't care.
That's irrelevant. I'm okay with all that. It's cool. Whatever.
Yeah, extremely relevant.
Asking about the action. I'm asking about the action of him. So he's acting. He's acting. He's using his autonomy to go choose the woman that he wants to marry, getting her pregnant. Right? He chose those things. He did those things. He made those. That's what he did. He made those choices. But then the responsibility of them, right? He avoids them. So I would say people that are not being responsible with their autonomy should not necessarily have autonomy.
So the difference, or the issue I'm running into here is that what you're describing now, we've shifted to something that applies to both men and women. Like if a woman is the primary breadwinner in a relationship, and she decides to go off and leave, she can also be on the hook for child support, right?
Yes, that would be the consequence of not being that choosing to abandon her family. The laws would be enforced and cause her to be accountable and have to pay. Right.
Sure. So to be clear, what we're describing here applies to both men and women. But when we're talking about pregnancy, it does not just. Except for very few trans men, right?
Even pregnancy, I was using as an example. I was getting to the point where if somebody's acting in their autonomy, but they are not willing to be accountable for their actions or responsible for their actions afterwards, should not necessarily have autonomy, is what I'm getting at. If they're not going to be responsible with this autonomy, then they shouldn't have it, is what I'm saying. They should have someone governing them.
And what I'm saying is that responsibility, you're saying they're not responsible by your standard. And I'm saying I think it is a responsibility to decide whether or not hang on. I'm saying it is a responsibility to decide whether or not you're going to carry that child for 9 months. And it is a responsibility to seek out an abortion if you decide you're not going to. And that is a difficult choice to make. And I think that is someone demonstrating their autonomy. And I think refusing to allow them to have that is actually you're blocking them from exercising their responsibility.
Okay, but I was just trying to use it as an example to show that if someone's not being responsible with the power that they're given or the freedom or the privilege that they're given, then they should be taken away.
And I'm saying that they are being responsible, just not by your personal standard.
Again, you're using that example that I'm talking about in general. I'm saying in general, I'm being very general. If somebody is not being a good steward with the privilege that they have, the privilege can be taken away.
I don't know about that. I don't know if I agree with that. But also, I don't think that applies to the situation we're talking about either.
I was using the situation as an example.
Yeah, but right? I'm saying that example doesn't
when
fit
it comes
that
to the
context,
voting
right?
thing, when it comes to the voting thing, right? This is where I was getting at. When it comes to war and defending this nation, the ones that are going to have to defend this nation and go to war, in my opinion, should be the primary people that have the right to vote. Now, I think there should be multiple layers of voting, multiple criteria to have the right to vote. I think there need to be skin in the game. One, not just being a landowner. No, because anybody could buy land, right? I would say no. You either have to serve or have served, right? Because the cost, the real cost of war and sending people to war, right? So I think that right there is one criteria.
But if you're subject to the rules that govern a society, why should you only have to serve in the military if you're going to be subject regardless to the rules that govern you? Shouldn't you have a voice in those rules that are governing you?
Why should you?
Well, if you're not going to have to defend those, or if you're not going to have to do anything, if it doesn't cost you anything, why should you be able to say something that you're not paying the cost?
Well, it does cost you. Whether or not you are you are going to be affected by the laws of the nation. You're going to be affected by the people in power. So it does cost you things. It costs it potentially, or protected or oppressed, right?
No, you are protected. You are
protected or oppressed. You could also, if the people in power, if the people in power decide that you don't deserve rights and they want to take away those rights, like your right to life, liberty, and happiness, or whatever, they prevent you from having those things. You are being oppressed by those people in power, and you're not being protected by them when they take away those rights. They're actually the ones who you need protection from. You might need legal rights to protect you from those sorts of people.
So then, babies in the womb need protection from their mothers, because their mothers are trying to exercise the right to end their life because of convenience or whatever reason.
I think it's a hyper specific situation where someone's growing inside of you, and it's hard to transcribe it to other situations. But there are others. You wouldn't force a mother to give her kidney to a born child, right?
No, exactly, because you're talking about something external force to after the baby's been born. You're trying to talk about something that is being taken, not being something that is utilized. It's the same thing I tried to explain to you before.
The outcome is the child or baby dying. It doesn't matter.
Is completely dependent on everything the mother provides while it's in the womb. Okay, once it leaves, it no longer is beholden to those organs. So they're no longer heard their entitlement. That's the point. The entitlement is there based on functionality, based on how the baby's born.
But you're asserting entitlement.
Believe it? No, you're asserting it by saying all beings deserve autonomy. You have to prescribe autonomy for that baby too, but you won't do that because it completely destroys the entire way that you will view this. Yes, it does. So autonomy oftentimes, for baby deserves autonomy. Okay, it deserves to come to term. Okay, you want to apply that same logic and say, oh well, now it needs a kidney. Okay, but it's no longer beholden to the things that were giving it life before. It's a completely different entity now. It's a different stage of life. It doesn't change the fact it was always a life, but it's a different stage. Right now, you're at a different stage of life than you were 18 years ago. That's how it works. We're at all different stages. So yeah. Oh, that's Spurgeon.
Well, here's the thing.
But hang on.
You said life is valuable.
Yes. I'm not asserting that the baby's autonomy is not something to consider. What I am asserting is that oftentimes in life, in the real world, we have to decide whose autonomy overrides another one, right? And somebody is growing inside of somebody else. I think that the person who is the body that they are growing inside, I think that person's autonomy supersedes the autonomy of the one growing inside.
No, that's an interesting
disagreement we're having.
That's an interesting point. So if I were starving to death and you had a sandwich and I shot you in the head and took your sandwich, that's okay. I need that sandwich more than you. I'm starving to death.
Good job, Greg. That's a good one.
Need that. It's not about the woman needing her body more than the child. The child actually needs her body just as much, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's not. So that analogy doesn't really follow. It doesn't really apply to this.
Well, I mean, because
it's not a competition. We're just saying that one supersedes the other. You could argue that your right to that sandwich supersedes, but I don't think we would want to build a society where your right to that sandwich supersedes.
We're already kind of doing that.
You're making that argument. You're making that argument.
That's the argument that you're making in a sense. Yeah.
No, it is because that's the
grid is not growing inside of somebody. So no.
No, but here, hold on. Here's the thing I want to point out. Because you're saying we have there's this basically a hierarchical structure then of whose life is more valuable than. Right?
Wait. Yeah. You said, what if the mother had to give an organ to an already born child? That child's not inside the womb either.
Yes, I agree. And I'm saying that in the real world, that child is not entitled to that. Just like in Grid's example, that he is not entitled to that sandwich.
Right, but the baby inside is.
The child according to you guys.
No.
But according to you, though.
Yeah, you made the argument.
All life is valuable.
I'm not making. I'm explicitly. No, you're not. I'm explicitly saying the baby is not entitled to her body. I'm explicitly saying the opposite.
No, I'm not saying not entitled to her body. I said, but you said that baby is entitled to life.
It has right. It can have rights. Yes,
and autonomy.
It has rights as long as it has rights as long as they don't overrule the rights of the woman they're growing inside.
No, you can't give that. You said that it deserves.
I absolutely can. I totally can. That's been my position the whole damn time. I can absolutely say that.
Changing the definition of autonomy.
I'm not changing shit.
Hold on, I'm getting clarification. I want to get clarification.
Then I gotta cam down for a minute and go ice my wrist again. I'll be listening, but I'm gonna.
Okay, make sure you ice it and don't jerk off again. Okay, hold it.
Yeah, I fell while running. You should get out of your chair once in a while.
I'm sure you did, buddy.
All right, so let me ask this, okay? Because I like to live off principles, and principles are universal. They kind of go across all boards, right? In every area, right? Like a lie is always wrong, right? Doesn't matter if it's a little lie or a big lie. Lying is bad.
Well, let's test that. Like, is it wrong?
So Santa Claus is bad. How is Santa Claus wrong?
Yeah. So is it wrong if the swastika people are at your door and they're saying, and you have a Jewish person in your attic, and they say, "Is there a Jewish person in your attic?" Is it wrong to tell them? No?
Yeah, I'll be lying.
And you're doing a moral wrong in that scenario.
Yeah, because like I would have a gun and I'd be like, "Yeah, there's Jewish people in my house." And what?
Okay, well, I would say the moral obligation you have in that scenario is to.
I don't think it's a lie. I don't think you have any moral. I don't think you have any. You're never obligated to lie.
Okay, you're right. I'm using that word. I probably shouldn't use the word moral obligation. I would say the morally right thing to do there is to lie.
No, I wouldn't say the right thing is never right to lie.
So you would say, would you lie in that scenario?
No, I'd be like, no, I got people up here.
So you would, to hold true to this standard, you would let people get killed by the swastika folks.
I'm not letting anybody kill. You didn't say I was going to let them get killed.
You're gonna fight off You're gonna fight them off then, I guess.
I can.
Okay. What if? Okay. So let's walk it back and let's imagine a slightly different scenario where you are incapable of defending them, and you would rather. And if you know that if you lie to them,
if I wasn't capable of defending them, I probably wouldn't be able to get up to answer the door.
Okay. The point that's being made is that there are times where lying is probably the right thing to do.
All right, Abe, take it easy, bro. Abe's taking it off, you guys.
I gotta run to the store, you guys, before it gets too late in the day for me.
Be safe.
If I come back and there's thanks. If I get back and there's still time, I'll jump on, but we'll see.
I'm actually probably gonna bounce off soon, so it's what I
want to get at, what I guess the point I'm trying to make is, right, for example, okay, you know what, when you were a kid, you lived under your parents' authority, right? And you had a car. Let's say you had a car. You could drive that car wherever you want to go to, right? But the moment that your parents see that you are not being responsible with this car, with this autonomy to drive and do what you want in your car, right? They take that away from you, right? You have now lost this privilege, this thing that you were able to do because you were not being a good steward with the autonomy that you were given. So then they remove that from you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Would you say that's appropriate?
Generally, yeah. I think it's reasonable for parents to exercise authority.
If you have a bunch of speeding tickets and parking tickets and you don't obey the rules of the road, you can have your license privilege, your privilege to drive, your autonomy to drive removed from you, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can lose your right to vote if you commit felonies, yeah. Unless
you can kind of get that back down, but I think they should just
it depends. But yeah.
Well, unless you're in prison the entire time for the rest of your life, well then of course
there's a lot of obstacles that make it harder for people who the law argues should have the right to vote, but that's again besides the point.
So for me, when I say that voting should not be universal, everybody gets it. I think there should be some level of skin in the game. It can cost you something, right? If there has to be the consequence of you voting, right, and it may lead to war, or it has to cost an individual. So like you have to feel that burden with everybody else, right?
Wait, on that point though, what I'm arguing is that existing in our society, you are going to experience the consequences of government policy. So you do have skin in the game, objectively. Like women in society, whether or not they're part of the military, they have skin in the game. They may not have skin in the game by your standard of skin in the game, but they absolutely have skin in the game.
But I'm saying it's not equally felt across the board. That's what I'm getting at. Every man at 18 years old, you have to sign up for the selective service, right? Mm-hmm. Or you could face, I think it's $250,000 fine and up to 5 years in prison, right? And you won't even get the right to vote if you don't sign up for the selective service, right?
Yeah, and I have some issues with the nature of the draft, but yeah, sure.
Okay, but we understand that's the law, right? We could get drafted, right? That's the skin in the game.
Men were drafted in the United States.
It doesn't matter. It's the possibility. It's the fact that the level of the skin in the game is not equal, right? It's not equally felt.
But there is skin in the game. They both have skin in the game. They just don't have the same skin in the game. Right?
In the game, I'm saying they should be across the board equally felt.
Why? If women and men aren't equal,
I'm not saying they are equal.
If they aren't equal, why should we expect them to have the exact same skin in the game?
And if we're not equal, why should they have the same right without having to pay the same price?
So they are both affected by the law of the land. So it makes sense to equally. Give them, well, potentially worse, depending on.
No, not potentially worse. You don't know that.
Yeah. I mean, what if the government decided tomorrow that women were like, we got a kind of far right like Taliban like government in place, and they decided that women are no longer allowed to go to school?
At least they ain't got to get up early.
Come on, dude.
They can sleep in. You don't remember wanting to sleep in?
Be for real right now, though. Like that's a very real thing that could happen. Like it happens in the world right now. We live in a world on Earth where there are movements, there are governments that don't let women go to school, and if those women are not allowed to vote for those parties, they are more likely to be susceptible to those sorts of policies, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's right. But I can't necessarily say that would be equally negative to all women. Some women may actually prefer not going to school.
Yeah, but the whole point about a preference is that you actually have the choice, right? Like some women might be glad they don't have to go to school. That's fine. Some men might be. I certainly didn't want to go to school when I was a kid, but I'm glad that I went to school. I'm glad I have the opportunity to go to school.
Yeah, but I'm saying like, again, you're looking at it like the worst possible case scenario. And I'm saying like, okay.
And so were you with the draft?
No, the draft we've already experienced that. It's not the worst possible, but I'm not looking at something that we have never experienced. I'm saying we have experienced the draft here in America. We haven't experienced jihad coming over here and controlling or changing our government and putting women in burqas and forcing them, to be like no education or any of that.
Well, 100 years ago, women did not have the right to vote, and a few 100 years before that, or less, like, throughout the 100 years before that, there was varying degrees of where they were allowed to go to school. So this is absolutely real. I'm describing a real thing as well.
No, it's not. It's not real in the sense of there was a level of mistreatment. Women weren't going to school because they had a different purpose, right? They had more like, and
that purpose was enforced by legal structures that allowed those schools and those systems to prevent women from going to school. Just like in the 60s, just like before the civil rights movement, black people there was legal structures that allowed schools to discriminate against black students.
But they also had black schools.
Yeah, and they were like almost all way less funded and way worse off.
We don't know that because neither one of us.
We do know that, actually. It's very well documented.
Just because something is documented doesn't make it factual.
Okay, well, unless you have evidence to the contrary. I mean, if you disagree, that's fine. We can disagree about this. I think most people know that blacks, like explicitly black schools, were generally worse off and had less resources than explicitly white schools. But
I think Brown has what?
Even now,
you think Brown has worse resources than normal colleges?
Okay, what I'm saying. Okay, now we're talking about colleges. I was talking about public schools in general.
Well, schools, right?
Yeah.
Because it would have to be even.
There might be exceptions to the rule, but by and large, by and large, schools that were exclusively black absolutely had less. We can disagree about this. It's fine if you want to take that stance. If you want to make the argument that some of those schools were actually better.
I can say that the possibility is there absolutely because of the prejudice and the racism. Yeah, absolutely, that possibility is there. I can't say for certain because I was not there.
Okay. But okay, so I wasn't there for the draft. So should I not have to? So I should be able to.
I mean, you can look back and see the. Well, I would say you could look.
I don't know if the draft. I have to take your word for it that the draft happened.
Well, you could look back and even your own family members will tell you, yeah, the draft happened. That I was either subjected to the draft or I had my number was X. So there you go. You could go back to even.
Okay, well, you could ask black people. There are black people alive today who had to go to segregated schools. You could talk to them.
Yeah, I know, but. Again, like I said, men lie, people lie. That's
the standard. You keep reversing it whenever I'm placing the burden on you.
Let's not talk about history. How about all the schools that want to segregate now, that want to have black only dorms, black only classes, black only?
That's separation. That's separation, not segregation.
Segregation is a very specific thing.
No, segregation is forced upon. Separation is choice.
Yeah.
I'm all for separation, not segregation.
Ryan, would you be surprised to learn that before desegregation, most blacks felt like they were better off? Matter of fact, blacks had their own banks, had their own schools, had their own churches, had their own stores, had everything. Would you be surprised to learn that?
I've heard this point before. So
okay. So in what way are they better now than they were then?
Well, now they have rights.
Black Wall Street.
They had rights. What
happened to Black Wall Street? What happened to Black Wall Street? It was burned down, right?
Desegregation made them not able to have it.
No, Black Wall. I mean, we're talking about Black Wall Street specifically. That was it was literally burned down by white supremacists.
Was it? Let me look that up.
What's that event? Tulsa, the Tulsa massacre.
Why would Black Wall Street be in?
So you're not familiar with the Tulsa race riots? This is Black Wall Street in Tulsa was literally burned. Hundreds of people were killed. See, this is why we need critical race theory in schools.
There's actually in several cities, not just Tulsa. The most well-known example is in Greenwood District, Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was a prosperous community before getting destroyed in the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. Another example is the Pierce Street area of Durham, North Carolina, which was a hub for black businesses and community life. These areas represented economic success and self-sufficiency for black community.
Yeah. So who faced consequences?
White rioters, looters, looted and burned and bombed the district.
Are bombing.
What?
They are bombing currently.
Well, no, I'm talking about.
We're talking about Tulsa.
Tulsa
specifically.
Yeah, it says white rioters, looters, burned and bombed the district. Some even used private airplanes to drop incendiaries on homes and businesses.
It was horrifying, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, Black Wall Street was a bad thing, but I'm saying that because of
the destruction of it was a bad thing. I hear you.
No, I'm saying because of segregation, they created their own, their own thing. That's a good thing. I'm all for that. People creating their own thing for their own group if that's what they want. But
yeah, but what if they want to create things with white? What if white people and black people want to create things together? What if I want to create? What if I want to start a business with my black friends?
That's why I said I'm opposed to segregation. I am pro separation, though. If I want to choose to not, do business with Ryan or, have Ryan on my panel, I am separating myself from Ryan. I have that choice, right? And Ryan can separate himself from me, right? But I
wouldn't want you though. I like you, Glenn.
I like you too, Ryan. You're a good guy. I don't want some law saying that I cannot be Ryan's friend because, Ryan is a feminist, sexist, anti-sexist, sexist, right? I don't want the law telling me I can't be your friend because of that. That's segregation, right? Mm-hmm. Separation is a choice that you get to make.
Sure.
The individual.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah. I think I have food here, so I'm probably going to bounce. But is there any final memes you want to go over? This is a nice conversation.
So I just want to make sure that you realize that you're saying that I am not a misogynist, but you are. Because you're a sexist misogynist, it's non-sexist, anti-sexist misogynist, right? And
something like that.
And I'm not a misogynist, so want to clarify.
I am making no assertion about whether or not you are a misogynist. Either way, I'm not going to assert either way.
Do you? I just want to ask. Do you think the term has been abused?
Yes, by both like red pill anti-feminist movements and probably to some degree feminists as well. Yeah, sure.
Okay. And do you think by doing that, by not correcting that, by not calling that out or course correcting that, that behavior is detrimental? I
think the course correction, what I would say is it's good to have these conversations and try to talk about like why people might perceive something as misogynist, why people might perceive something as not misogynistic. I think those are really interesting and productive conversations to have. I'm glad that we're having them, but I don't know if I'd phrase it as like the course correction I would see is like having a more nuanced approach to the issues. But that's where
I think the course correction would be having these conversations, not forcing anybody to make changes, but by enlightening them, by giving them the knowledge, right? So then they make their changes themselves. You know, like, oh, this is not necessarily this, so I shouldn't call it this. I'll call it something else, but it's not this.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, you can have those conversations, and some people might still come away with, okay, well, what they're describing, like what at an abstract level, I agree that the things they're describing are not inherently misogynistic, but at a material level, like if we go more specific down to like specific examples, I think there are other dimensions of these things that do manifest in misogynistic ways, but we can dive way deeper in that another time. So that's kind of where I come from.
Sounds good. I hope you enjoy your meal, and if I'm on later on, hop on. I'll probably have another good topic for you.
Sounds good, man. All right. Thanks for having me. See you, Grid.
Take it easy, Ryan. Yeah. Have a good one.
Fizz in my cup, swimming good love. It was you at the club, miss your touch. Go again, baby, what's up? Nothing feels right, so let's mess up everything.